In a quiet corner of rural Texas, the sound of laughter often gave way to the rhythmic clanking of wrenches in the Carter family's auto repair shop. The sun beat down hard on the tin roof as 12-year-old Emily Carter crouched under a rusted Chevy, oil smeared across her hands and face. Her father, Rick Carter, a lifelong mechanic with a gentle heart and a strong back, had taught her everything he knew. But even he couldn't explain how quickly Emily absorbed knowledge. She was a natural, sensing the language of engines like others understood music or math. Unlike other kids her age, Emily didn't spend her afternoons with friends at the park or glued to screens. Her joy came from solving mechanical puzzles, tightening bolts with just the right torque, or identifying an engine's issue by its cough. Locals often came by not just to see Rick, but to watch the little genius do what seasoned men couldn't. She was something of a legend already. One blazing summer day, as cicadas buzzed in the heat and dust swirled down the road, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom rolled into town. Its engine stuttered twice before going silent, steam whispering from under the hood. Emily looked up from her work and squinted through the sun. It wasn't every day a luxury car like that passed through their modest town, much less broke down in front of their garage. Her curiosity piqued as she slid out from under the Chevy, wiping her hands on a rag. The door of the Rolls-Royce opened, and out stepped a tall man in a tailored navy suit, his face hidden behind dark sunglasses. He had the kind of calm confidence that only came from wealth and control. The man was Raymond Lasker, a billionaire tech mogul known in Silicon Valley, but a stranger to nearly everyone in town. No one recognized him. And that suited Raymond just fine. He liked moving quietly when he could. Rick approached first, greeting him with a warm smile and a handshake. "Engine trouble?" Rick asked, peering toward the still smoking hood. Raymond nodded and explained that the car had overheated and begun losing power. "She's been acting strange since I left Houston," he added. Rick was about to grab his gloves when Emily beat him to it. Without a word, she popped the hood and peered inside. Raymond raised a brow, watching the young girl inspect his million-dollar car like it was a school project. Emily's fingers traced wires and tubes with ease, and after just a minute she spoke. "It's your cooling valve. Model year's got a known fault. Expands too fast in heat, locks the flow. I can bypass it temporarily," she said, reaching for a tool. Rick opened his mouth to object. He didn't want her to risk embarrassing herself, but Raymond gestured for her to continue. His curiosity was already hooked. Within 10 minutes, Emily had disassembled the faulty section, rerouted a temporary fix using parts from a shelf of old Ford spares, and closed the hood with a soft clang. "Try it now," she said simply. Raymond slid into the driver's seat, turned the key, and the engine purred like new. He stepped out, mouth slightly open, as if unsure whether he should laugh or applaud. "You just did what my personal engineers couldn't," he said, stunned. Emily shrugged. It wasn't that complicated. She wiped her face with her forearm, leaving a streak of grease across her cheek. Raymond knelt slightly, looking her in the eye. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emily," she replied. That name lodged itself somewhere deep in his memory. A name he'd remember every time he questioned how the world defined talent and brilliance, and something inside him, something long buried under business deals and board meetings, shifted. After paying Rick generously and thanking them both, Raymond got back in the Rolls-Royce and drove off, but he didn't get far before pulling over on the edge of town, thinking hard. He'd built a tech empire by spotting talent early. Programmers, inventors, SI designers, yet he'd never seen raw, instinctive genius like Emily's. He called his assistant and said, "Cancel my next 2 meetings. I need to make a detour tomorrow." The truth was, Raymond hadn't come to town randomly. He was scouting rural Texas for future tech campus sites. He hadn't expected to find something more valuable than land. Back at the garage, Emily returned to work like nothing had happened. But Rick noticed something in her eyes, an extra sparkle, maybe pride. "You did good, kiddo," he said. She didn't smile, but her silence said more than words. That evening, as the sunset painted the sky with orange and gold, Emily sat on the garage steps watching the clouds. She didn't know who Raymond Lasker really was, nor did she care. She just loved solving problems. That was enough. The next morning, a long black SUV rolled quietly onto the driveway. Raymond stepped out, this time without his sunglasses. Rick recognized him immediately from a news article. Emily barely looked up from the workbench. "I thought you were on your way," Rick said cautiously. Raymond smiled. "I was. Then I realized I left something more valuable behind." He turned to Emily. "Would you like to visit Austin with me? I want to show you something." Rick raised his eyebrows. Emily hesitated, then slowly nodded. 3 hours later, they arrived at Lasker Tech Labs, an expansive facility housing experimental engines, robotic systems, and AI-integrated vehicles. The best minds in engineering worked there. Yet, when Emily walked in, wearing oversized overalls and wide eyes, the room fell silent. Raymond handed her a small tablet and said, "This engine's been stalling during autonomous calibration. Think you can figure it out?" Engineers chuckled politely in the background. Emily stepped forward, completely unfazed. She opened the engine's panel, examined the diagnostic data, and then rewired a portion of the throttle sensor. It took her 17 minutes. The lead engineer ran a test, and the engine fired perfectly. There was silence, then applause, then something else: respect. Raymond watched her with pride, knowing he hadn't just found a genius, he'd found someone who could change everything about how talent was seen in his world, and maybe the world at large. Later, over lunch in the tech campus cafeteria, Raymond asked Emily what she wanted to do when she grew up. "Build cars no one's ever seen before," she answered. He grinned. "I can help you do that." She looked at him carefully. "Only if my dad's part of it too." Raymond nodded. Immediately, Rick Carter would be offered a role in the innovation garage on the spot. He might not have had her genius, but he raised it. The news spread slowly at first. "Texas girl outsmarts engineers." Then it went viral. By week's end, Emily Carter had become a national name. MIT called. Tech companies wanted interviews. TV stations requested appearances. But Emily didn't care about any of that. What mattered was the next bolt she would tighten, the next system she could fix. At 12, she had already mastered something few adults ever did. Not just knowledge, but purpose. And she never forgot the dusty garage where it all began. 2 days later, Raymond returned. Not for his car, but for Emily. This time, there was no engine problem or business need. He came because something about the 12-year-old had left a mark on him, deeper than anything money could buy. He stood in front of their garage with the same Rolls-Royce, only this time the car wasn't what mattered. He stepped out, offered Rick a handshake, and turned to Emily with a serious, respectful nod. "I'd like to show you something," he said softly. Emily exchanged a curious glance with her father and nodded. They rode with Raymond to Austin, the city lights a far cry from their sleepy town. Inside his tech headquarters, sleek and sterile with glass walls and humming servers, Raymond introduced Emily to his team, some of the brightest engineers in the country. There were skeptical glances and polite smiles. Emily was small, dusty from travel, and obviously young. They didn't see genius, not yet. She was shown a busted AI-powered engine core, one Raymond's team had failed to fix for weeks. It was complex, cutting edge, and fully integrated with software no mechanic had yet mastered. Raymond asked gently, "Think you can take a look?" Emily walked over silently, her eyes scanning the intricate mess. She didn't flinch. Instead, she removed her flannel shirt, rolled up her sleeves, and opened the housing unit with quiet confidence. The room leaned in. Rick stood by the door, watching, heart pounding. For the next hour, no one spoke. Emily's hands moved like she was painting, weaving through circuits, wires, and AI processors. She didn't look at manuals, didn't use a laptop, just intuition. Bit by bit, the machine began to hum, only fixed but streamlined. The power readout shot up. The room's silence turned electric. When she finally stepped back, the lead engineer whispered she'd just increased efficiency by 20%. Applause erupted. Raymond didn't clap. He just smiled, eyes damp. After the demonstration, Raymond led them into his glass office. With a tone both excited and reverent, he offered Emily a full scholarship, mentorship under his engineering team, and access to tools and resources even adults could only dream of. Emily sat still for a moment, then looked at Rick. Her voice was steady. "Only if my dad comes too. He's taught me everything I know." Rick's eyes welled with tears. Raymond nodded, his voice caught in his throat. "Of course." From that moment, the story of the 12-year-old prodigy rocketed across national headlines. TV shows wanted interviews. MIT professors sent letters. Talk shows begged for guest appearances. Yet Emily remained unchanged. She declined most invitations, opting instead to stay in Austin's engineering lab, building, learning, dreaming. She didn't want fame. She wanted to make machines that mattered, to help, to innovate, to bring power to those without. When asked by a reporter what made her so extraordinary, she simply said, "I watch and listen. Machines talk. You just need to know how to hear them." That line alone made the front page of several major newspapers. But to Emily, headlines didn't matter. What did matter was the solar-powered wheelchair she designed for a rural hospital, or the low-cost water filtration system she began building for small towns like hers. Rick, once a small-town mechanic just trying to make ends meet, now worked alongside elite engineers, not as a charity case, but as a respected mind in his own right. Raymond had insisted they both be treated as equals. At night, after hours in the lab, father and daughter would sit together, tinkering with tools like they always had, laughing, solving problems, and sharing quiet pride. Their bond had grown deeper through every challenge and triumph. Months passed. Emily was invited to present her latest innovation at a national robotics summit. When she took the stage, her presence was quiet but powerful. She unveiled a device that could diagnose and repair faulty sensors in autonomous vehicles, a problem top tech companies had been grappling with for years. Her solution was not only simple, but elegant. As applause thundered through the hall, Emily bowed her head, then looked at Rick in the front row. He stood, clapping with pride no trophy could match. After the event, Raymond introduced Emily to a group of philanthropists. He believed she could change the world with the right backing. One executive asked her, "What's your ultimate goal, Emily?" She paused. G then said, "I want every kid who likes tools more than toys to know they're not weird. They're needed." The room went quiet, and then came another wave of applause. No speech, however rehearsed, could match the authenticity of that answer. Emily never forgot where she came from. She insisted that the garage back home be renovated into a free training space for young mechanics. Kids from the community came to learn, inspired not by lectures, but by watching someone their age turn possibility into progress. Rick taught classes. Emily oversaw projects. Raymond donated equipment. The town that once saw her as just a girl with greasy hands now saw her as a symbol of pride. One afternoon, as Emily adjusted the engine of a local farmer's truck, a group of students gathered around her. One young girl asked, "Aren't you famous now?" Emily smiled and shook her head. "Fame doesn't fix engines, focus does." She handed the girl a wrench. "Your turn." That exchange was captured by a visiting journalist, and the photo went viral. Emily crouched next to a child, teaching her to dream with her hands. Despite her brilliance, Emily never lost her humility. She gave credit to her father, to small-town values, and to every mistake. That taught her something new. When Raymond was asked what surprised him most about Emily, he said, "Her mind is extraordinary, but her heart, that's something even rarer." He wasn't just investing in her skills, he was learning from her. Every conversation with Emily left him rethinking how to approach problems and how to listen more carefully. Years later, when Emily was asked to keynote a major tech conference, she began her speech by placing a photo of her garage on the screen. She said, "This is where I learned to fix things, not in labs, but in life. My dad taught me to see beyond broken parts, to believe that everything has a way back if you just care enough to try." That line didn't just earn applause, it earned tears. As Emily and Rick continued their journey, the world watched, listened, and learned. But to them, nothing had really changed. A day they still shared peanut butter sandwiches during long nights of work, still argued playfully over tools, still celebrated every solved problem like it was their first. The only difference was now, the world celebrated with them. Emily Carter, the girl who once fixed a billionaire's car in a dusty Texas garage, had reminded humanity that sometimes brilliance looks like grease-stained hands, a stubborn mind, and a heart full of purpose.